just woke up from the time of my life. It started with a major throwback. Then I got to meet the big shots. I found a sweet spot between cultures and hung out with the artsy crowd. I even picked up a few things along the way. After that, things kicked into overdrive. It started with a whirlwind through the streets. An unforgettable eats. A celebration of flavor in every bite. And an epic new party at every turn. The best thing about it here, the good times are never over.
Lights, city sights, shopping malls, little stalls, flip-flops, rock and roll, street smart, fine art, new and old, bronze, gold, warm, charm, hot and cold. Quick bites, foodie finds, nice smiles, wild style, cheap thrills, sky high, knick-knacks, welcome back. Every corner, fun, fun, fun. Manila, welcome back.
Philippines.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, industry stakeholders from across the Philippines. Welcome to the very first Department of Tourism National Capital Region's Leadership Excellence Series 2020, Recharge and Revitalize. My name is John Aguilar. I am the creator and host of CNN Philippines' The Final Pitch, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Thank you for joining us in this powerhouse online learning program. I know you're all excited for what's in store for us today, and I share this same excitement. For one, we have a high-caliber lineup of speakers whom we are very fortunate to have with us for this free online engagement. We are coming to you live from Marriott Hotel at Resorts World Manila. This event is also live on Zoom, at Tourism MNL on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Let the world know you're here by sharing our Facebook and YouTube Live. You can also catch our real-time updates on Twitter at TourismMNL with the hashtags #LES2020, #DOTNCR, #Recharge, #Revitalize. I'm sure everyone's eager to know more about the background of this event, so without further ado, let's officially open the Leadership Excellence Series 2020, Recharge and Revitalize. To formally welcome everyone and share some inspiring words we ought to hear in this time of uncertainty. Ladies and gentlemen, our country's tourism chief, Bernadette Romulo Puyat, Secretary of the Department of Tourism.
DOT NCR Regional Director Woodrow Makiling Jr., congratulations to you and your team on the launch of this very special online Leadership Excellence Series. I'm looking forward to see what your team has in store for us today. Greetings to the tourism stakeholders and business owners who are streaming now via Zoom, Facebook, or YouTube. Thank you for joining and welcome to today's webinar. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused us social and economic upheaval, particularly for the tourism industry, which was all but halted by border closures, airline groundings, and strict quarantine measures. The Department of Tourism has responded with a comprehensive economic recovery plan, as well as issuing health and safety guidelines for various tourism establishments and operations to follow under the new normal. We have also initiated online learning courses to support our tourism partners during this pandemic. Since April, the Department of Tourism has been conducting webinars and online learning series on topics like innovation and entrepreneurship, culture and heritage, sanitation and hygiene, e-commerce, digital marketing, and advertising, mental well-being, and the Filipino brand of service during the time of pandemic. Courses like these seek to retool and reskill our stakeholders and tourism workers in preparation for when tourism activities have restarted, again under the new normal. Today's quarterly webinar series, spearheaded by DOT NCR, complements our trainings with the regional office's own approach, delivering a dynamic, high-caliber production that will leave participants recharged and revitalized by inspirational topics headlined by captains of industry, policy shapers, thought leaders, and the like. Today's esteemed speakers for the first Leadership Excellence Series include Mr. Francis Kong, who is the president of Success Options Publishing Company and Funworks Inc., and a founding member and director of Inspire Leadership Consultancy, to share insights on how to energize, motivate, and boost the morale of our team. We also welcome Mr. Josiah Go, Chairman and Chief Innovation Strategist of Mansmith and Fielders Inc., and Chairman of Waters Philippines, to discuss strategies on how to bounce back and ensure business continuity despite the odds and adverse industry statistics. We hope that today's participants will glean more than just technical knowledge from the combined expertise and experience of our resource speakers, but also marketing strategies and insights on optimizing human resources that you can apply to your own businesses in the National Capital Region. I wish you all an exciting webinar. We are entering a new world, one that demands a different approach to business as usual if we hope to revive our tourism industry in a safe and sustainable manner. Together, we will recover as one. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, for the inspiring words. Before we start with our first speaker, I would like to walk you through on what's about to happen. After each speaker delivers their words of wisdom, there would be an odd interactive question and answer portion in which you, our audience, will get to personally ask our speakers through the comment section in this live feed. Yes, we will be capturing your questions and flashing them on the screen, and our distinguished speakers will give us their opinions and advice. Each question and answer portion would run for 12 minutes, and we will select the best questions from the pool, so make sure to make those questions count. We will also have 2 5-minute breaks after each question and answer portion, so make sure to stay tuned from wherever you are. This is DOT NCR's way of making sure that we get to deliver this initiative to more and more people, especially during this delicate time. And you can help us spread the awareness even more by sharing this link and using the hashtag LES2020, hashtag DOTNCR, hashtag recharge, hashtag revitalize on all your posts. And to share with us his thoughts on revitalizing your business and creative strategies to market to the new tourist, and to present the 10 value chain factors affecting recovery in the tourism industry, I am honored to welcome a multi-awarded and best-selling author and business educator, more fondly known as the marketing mentor, Mr. Josiah Go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, John, for the nice introduction, and congratulations to the Department of Tourism. I was tasked to talk about 10 value chain factors, and I'd love to serve my country by offering some of my thoughts. This is COVID is a pandemic, and we will have to think differently. And I'd like to present, two points. First is I'd like to either validate or invalidate what's on your mind. And the second thing is to present to you probably a new way of market segmenting in the post-COVID era. What I'd like to do is, 4 things. Number one is I want to talk about tourism recovery. And I want to tell you about 4 themes, 10 different factors. And then I'm going to proceed and give you 4 different cases, how tourism industry can be very creative in their business model shift. And then I'm going to give 3 options how the tourism industry can be resilient. And then finally, I'm going to talk about 3 cases how to push for domestic tourism. My presentation is not just going to be applicable to the Philippines, it's going to be applicable to any country because the principles will stay the same. So, let me just talk about recovery because this is a prerequisite before you can grow. You cannot grow unless you recover. And recovery entails time and effort. And so I want to use the concept of value chain. Value chain are activities that you need to do before you can sell a product or a service, or what we call in marketing value proposition. And I think it's a very important thing for us to understand about the value chain. And I'm going to break down the value chain into 4 themes and 10 different factors. So, what are the 4 themes? The first thing that I'd like to show you is that the first theme is about COVID situation of the traveler's country. So, if you look at this, we have a COVID situation worldwide. What does it mean? How is it going to change? So one of the things that I'd like to show you is that we are going to change what is called destination marketing. And when we talk about destination marketing, we will have to go away, try to avoid the traditional way of doing destination marketing segmentation. And the reason is that COVID is a health issue, and therefore the segmentation will have to follow what's on the mind of the consumers. And so I'm going to subdivide this into 3 different market segments in terms of destination marketing. And the first segment are what you call the crisis preventers. So when I talk about crisis preventers, when you look at this, okay, crisis preventers are people from countries that were able to prevent a COVID crisis in their countries. So what are these countries? So for example, we talk about Taiwan, we talk about Vietnam. Now, I hope you understand the importance of market segmentation, because in marketing, you cannot do marketing strategy unless you understand which market segment are you targeting. And because we have a COVID crisis, we will have to redefine the way we do our traditional market segmentation. So crisis preventers is the first segment. The second segment are the crisis extinguishers. So, you can see the crisis extinguishers are country or people from countries that were able to extinguish the COVID crisis, countries like Thailand or Malaysia. So that's the second market segment. But there's a third market segment, and I will explain to you the implication of that. And I call it the crisis firefighters. And these are countries that are still experiencing COVID. We will have to acknowledge where we are before we can even plan where we want to be. And crisis firefighters are from countries like Indonesia and the Philippines. So what does it mean if you have three market segments? And if we know we still have a COVID, rising cases of COVID, reality check is what kind of strategy can we do? Are we hopeless? Of course not. There are always strategies to counter issues. But I want everybody to understand human nature, human being, human nature. We always have a fight or flight, run away. And, we always want to take care of ourselves. And therefore, when you look at segmentation 1 and segmentation 2, there will have a different implication versus segmentation 3, at least temporarily. The market landscape obviously is going to change, but it's going to change temporarily until the vaccine will be launched. And by the time the vaccine is out, every country will have access. Everything goes back, to an equal state. So the second thing I want to tell you, I told you there are 4 themes. The second value chain theme is about country preparedness. And when I talk about country preparedness, there are 3 issues we need to consider. The first issue is that when are we going to get out of the World Health Organization watch list? I want you to understand that SARS, it took World Health Organization about 8 months to declare worldwide that we're SARS-free. Well, COVID is probably going to take more than 8 months. So, when I'm giving this talk is in July, it's probably going to take a few more months. This is reality check because SARS took 8 months for the WHO to declare the world to be SARS-free. The second thing is removal of restriction and resumption of flight. There's no way you can promote tourism if there are restrictions and flights will not be resumed. And when you talk about international tourism, the removal of this restriction includes local restriction. Because if a governor, if a mayor decides we are not going to open ourselves to particular, even to local tourism, then there's nothing you can do about it. The third thing in country preparedness is the removal of quarantine requirement. And countries are wise enough to do some negotiation that they don't have to be quarantined. They have an exchange program that if they go to one country and the other country goes to another country, both of them are COVID-free, they don't have to be quarantined, which is a very good way of promoting tourism. Now, I told you there are 4 themes. I'm done with the first 2. The first 2 are called the upstream of the value chain. Now let's talk about the downstream of the value chain. I want to talk about customers or the tourists, the confidence of tourists in the country of destination. I think it's a very important thing. When you talk about the confidence of tourists, you talk about the promoting country. How the promoting country is promoting themselves in terms of the peace and order image, in terms of the crime rate. Is it safe to go to a country? Is it tourist friendly? And the other thing about promoting country is promoting tourist related countries, because the countries cannot do it alone. they need to be helped with, companies who are also doing certain work to attract tourists, For example, airlines, transport, hotel, restaurants, and so forth and so on. In terms of the safety protocol, in terms of the disinfection policies, these are very important support that we need, but you already know that, and that's something that, that I have included it for the purpose of defining the 10 factors holistically. The last thing of the 4 themes is I'd like to talk about compelling offers. I will tell you, compelling offers will only work if the first 3 is going to work. Because if the first 3 in the value chain is not going to work, forget about compelling offer. Might as well save your money. I teach marketing, and I will tell you, save your money. Timing is everything. You might have to wait for a few months, 3 months, 6 months, before you even come up with a marketing campaign. And you need to have a relaunch mindset. If a product has been out of the market, if a service has been out of the market for a long time, you need to relaunch. And a relaunch mindset is totally different from an ongoing marketing campaign. But you also need to consider 2 other factors. One factor is the absence of a compelling offer from other countries. Because, your company can do a fantastic offer, but if another countries, will come up with an even better offer, you cannot do anything about it. And I think that's something, and I'm giving you some kind of a formula to look at the 10 factors so that you can rate yourself plus, equal, or minus in the value chain and plan accordingly. And I said there are 2. There are other thing is the ease of transaction, cancellation, and refund. Because if you are going to book, a flight or book a hotel, but it is so easy it's so easy to book, it's so easy to cancel, it's so easy to get a refund, then by all means, you're going to be encouraged. But I'd like you to ask yourself, and I'm referring to the people in the world, not just in the Philippines. How many of you have actually taken a flight? You have to cancel your flight because of COVID, but you have not gotten your refund up to now. I'm going to raise my hand because I had so many flights. I fly almost every month. But unless the airline industry is also going to shape up in terms of customer service, you are not going to do tourism a favor. You need to be able to be more proactive in terms of customer service, in terms of processing refund, which normally takes so many months, before refund is done. So I want to show you now, after identifying 10 different factors, I want to show you now 4 different cases, how companies have been very creative. The first case is India, and I'm going to tell you a Japanese case, I'm going to tell you a US case, and I'm going to tell you a Denmark case. And this is an India case. Fab Hotel, it's a budget hotel in India, positioned the whole hotel as an alternative work area. And when you reposition as an alternative work area, what happened is that instead of going to the office, employees will just go to the hotel. The hotel becomes their office. So it is converted now as an alternative work area. So it's not even targeting local tourism, it's targeting employers. The second thing is Japan. Kasuko Apartment repositioned themselves, it's a startup. They repositioned themselves into what is called a corona prevention place, which means that, a husband, for example, stay at home. The wife is not used to the husband staying at home, and suddenly the husband start messing around the decors in the house. Suddenly the husband is not helping in the household work, and they start fighting. Kasuko Apartment understood their customer and said, maybe there is an alternative place. You do not have to go into a divorce. Go to our apartment. And the reason why you have to go to our apartment is we give you a 30-minute divorce divorce avoiding consultation. Yeah. There's a third thing I'd like to share with you, which is about museum. In the US, there is a company called Museum Hack, and they give awesome storytelling tours. And when you come up with awesome storytelling tours, and museum for a long time, they were closed. So what happened is they shifted to come up with awesome online team building, because after all, they have facilitated so many teams during their museum tours through storytelling. They also give storytelling seminars, in fact. Faroe Island, which is actually part of or controlled by Denmark, actually promoted remote tourism. How did they promote? Because they didn't want anybody to visit Faroe Island. There's so many islands there. So they created a digital, an app, so that anybody can use the app. They can hire a local person, and the local person will follow whatever is the instruction of the person controlling the app. So if the person said turn right, the local guy is going to turn right. So if the person said turn left, the local guide is going to turn left. In other words, there is no specific tour. The tour is dependent on the person controlling the app. And I'm presenting to you 4 different ways. Now, the first 2 I just want to emphasize a bit, because the people, the businessmen who have fixed location, like a hotel, like a building, is going to be a little more, a little harder to ensure that all of their employees will be intact. And the reason is, if there's nobody who is going to stay there, what are they going to do? They have to ensure that the fixed location is going to be occupied. The others, of course, are a little more flexible. I'm going to talk more about this as we move on. And by the way, during the lockdown, I actually studied 45 companies from 17 countries. And I have documented it in a seminar called Business Model Shift. If you're interested, just go to Continuum Academy. Some of these cases on tourism, I have included it in like Faroe Island and Museum Hack. I've included it. Now, I want to make a prediction. And the prediction is, when you do recovery, when are we going to recover? So first, a while ago, I said, my prediction is there will be a new way of market segmentation. And the new way of market segmentation is going to be based on the recovery effort of countries. And it's going to be health-related. Recovery is health-related. It's going to be health-related. My second prediction is, I'd like to predict when is it going to happen. So if you look at SARS, it took 8 months. COVID is going to be longer. Obviously, it's not going to be 8 months. The second thing is, SARS has less than 1,000 deaths. COVID already has over 600,000 deaths. What am I telling you is 600 times more, times 600 times. That's the situation is a lot worse than SARS. SARS affected only 29 countries. COVID affected 210 countries. SARS, in a study by some graduate students in one of the Asian countries, I understand it's Taipei, if I'm not mistaken, they actually studied the return of tourists. And what they have discovered, and if I can just go back to my segment 1, 2, and 3, remember segment 1, 2, and 3. Segment 1 are those that have prevented the crisis. Taipei and Vietnam. Segment 2 are like Malaysia and Thailand, that they have extinguished the crisis. And segment 3 are still fighting the crisis. The prediction is that for those people who belong to segment 2 and 3, it probably will take 3 or 6 months before they start traveling within the countries in segment 2 and 3. But if you're expecting those people from segment 1 to go to segment 3, unless it is very, very important, it's probably not going to happen. In other words, there are data showing that you cannot just come up with a with a forecast that say anything multiplied by 10% or minus 10%. You will have to have a deep dive in terms of analyzing the market segment and the implication of that market segment to strategy. Specifically, assuming by October we will be normal. Let's say your country would be normal by October. And the World Health Organization will say, well, in December, everything is now, as normal as possible. It means by the third quarter of 2021, you will see segment 2 and segment 3, recovering rapidly. And by the first quarter of 2020, segment 1 is going to happen. And this is a prediction that I am doing. I'm making 2 predictions. Segmentation based on recovery, and 2, when is it going to happen? The only exception is unless vaccine would be available to all the countries, which is really the hope of segment number 3. The third thing I want to share with you is about resiliency. And I want to share with you 3 options. In the meantime, what are you going to do? And the 3 options I'd like to show you. One is you can turn around. Reality check is, I don't want to sugarcoat, many companies may already be running out of cash. I will tell you, if you want to be in the travel business, you may have to look for new partners. And it's not just the travel industry, any industry for that matter. If you're running out of cash, do not close the business. You know why? Because you always have the option to find a new partner for your business. So why close your business? And I always tell people, if you close the business, you have no value. If you sell the business, you have value. But if you revive the business, it has even greater value. So I'm telling you, if you want to turn around, you can, but you might have to, find new partners. Don't close. The second thing is that you'll have to bank on local tourism. And I'm going to give you 3 cases. I promise to give you 3 cases how you can facilitate a lot of local tourism. Now, that's number 1. Number 2 option is you can actually pivot. And I'm going to talk about pivoting. I told you about 4 cases a while ago, 4 creative business models here. That's an example of pivot. And the last one is, in the meantime, for people in the travel industry, you love this business, you have competency, you have spent all your life, or 10 years of your life, 20 years of your life, don't give it up. You know why? Because the situation is temporary. Crisis, they're just temporary. You can have a new business in the meantime. And if you have a new business, I'm going to show you, I wrote in my blog, using competencies and processes to pivot your business. This is Anjali Dab, and she owns Access Travel. She is a travel agent. And Anjali Dab actually created a totally new business, and she has actually hired, about 20 employees, more employees than when she was in the travel agency. In other words, who said you cannot come up with a new business and you cannot thrive during the pandemic? And so, so I tell you, opportunities are there. And the other thing I wrote in my blog, josiago.com, is that I tell you, there was a very, very big crisis. Remember in 1983? There was a big crisis, right? Aquino was assassinated. And, our GPD at that time, 84 and 85, it was minus 7.3, minus 7.4, which means the GDP at that time, 84, 85, was even worse than what's predicted, what's going to happen this year. And yet we survived. And guess what happened in 85? In 1985, SM North EDSA was launched. In spite of the fact that the interest rate was 45%. in spite of the fact that the foreign exchange devaluated from 11 pesos to 19 pesos in 2 years' time. In spite of the fact that the business environment was not very good, to, SM Nord EDSA, thrive and took advantage when everybody is having a wait-and-see attitude. Now, why am I telling you this? I told you about 83, 84, 85. What happened in 1986? EDSA revolution happened. So I go back to SM. EDSA revolution happened. So what happened to SM? Guess what? They started building SM Santa Mesa and SM Mega Mall. I'll tell you that there's a Chinese saying that Wei Qi means, there's always opportunity in crisis. You can look at it as danger and, pack up, don't do anything, or take a look at it and tell yourself, and so I want to just backtrack a bit, tell yourself, I am going to pivot. But at the same time, I want to come up with a new business in the meantime. And if I come up with a new business in the meantime, maybe I'm going to survive. And after 1 year, tourism is going to be, to all come back anyway, and I'm going to revive my business. So, I am telling you, there's positive hope. Don't give up hope. The problem is temporary. I want to end by giving you 3 cases of what domestic tourism can do. And this is what, in fact, government can do to support domestic tourism in terms of exactly how can we encourage domestic tourism. So I want to tell you 3 cases. First case is Thailand. And Thailand actually gave 40% subsidy on hotel rooms. Of course, there is a cap. They gave 40% subsidy for food, other services, facilities. They gave subsidy on local airline tickets. And as a reward for 1.2 million health workers, they actually subsidized $64, 2,000 baht, for an overnight stay in a hotel. What about Malaysia? Malaysia actually granted 1,000 ringgit, which is $234 tax break. In other words, if you spend in Malaysia, you can actually charge it, as part of your income tax, like you can deduct it from your what you will pay in income tax. And everybody in Malaysia got 100 ringgit, which is about $23 in digital discount. So that's going to accelerate a lot of the local tourism. What about Indonesia? Indonesia also gave discount for domestic tourists who would visit the top tourist spots. And Indonesia limited to only the top 10, and they subsidized airline fuel and tourism promotion. So I want to end by telling you that, I talk about resiliency. I'm oversimplifying resiliency. There are 10 tools of resiliency, but you need to start with your goal. You need to be hopeful, but you need to start with your goal. And my suggestion to you, when you start with your goal, make a goal that you want to survive this, that you don't want to quit. You want to survive this. Temporarily, you can do other things. Sure, we have a family, to feed. But I want to share, in fact, what is my goal. My goal is that, I'm a new grandfather. That's the picture of my grandson. And that's my goal. I'm a new grandfather. I have not seen my grandson after he was born 3 months ago. That's my goal. And my goal is one day, I am going to tell him stories about business model pivot. The people who survived, what did they do? That's my goal. So I'm trying to be as positive as possible. So go to my blog, Josiah Go, 10 tools. There are 10 tools. You can actually do it yourself and say, so what am I going? I want to be positive. I want to have more spirituality. I want to, there are so many things that you can do. By the way, if you want a copy of my talk, it's going to be in my blog, any minute now. I just told my staff to just post it after, I give my talk. Okay, so So that's it. Let's stay in touch. I hope you learn a lot from the three market segments, the new market segment that may happen, as well as the 10 value chain factors, the 4 cases on creative business model shift, as well as resiliency. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Josiah Go. So, Josiah, it's great to have you here on stage. I think we have both not been on a stage for the past 4 months.
And I have not seen you for a long time.
I have not seen you for a long
Yeah,
time,
for a long
and
time.
you know, I really hope that you get to see your grandson, hopefully sooner than later.
Actually, I was telling Maridel, God has a way of making things happen. And I was supposed to give a talk from my house.
Correct.
And this morning, suddenly, I had, issues with internet. Yeah, I think they have nothing to do with my problem in the house.
Are you sure?
Maybe they sent somebody to my house to force me to, to come here. But that's a joke. But I'm glad to be here.
But it's something we're all we're all having problems with. Internet is one of the biggest problems we have right now.
Yeah.
We're an archipelago, so if you do not have internet, that poses a lot of problems. Josiah,
My internet is they're usually very, very reliable, but it's an exception. I'm sure once in a while it happens.
right. So Josiah, we will be opening the floor to questions from our viewers from home, wherever you are. Mind you, we are being watched right now by industry stakeholders from across the country. So there are many people who are right now thinking of ways to not just survive, but also to pivot, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
And some have employed really ingenious ways by which to do this, but some are also very, I would say, clueless. So I think this was a very important talk that you gave today.
Yeah.
Those case studies were very helpful. It gave people, I guess, an idea of how you can pivot given their current resources, what they have. And you did say also that for those with physical infrastructure, it's a bit harder, but I guess what's going for them is that they have the human capital, the people, the talent of the Filipinos who have been there for years now, finding another way to be able to serve, in this case, more domestic tourists, Josiah.
Yeah. I want to give, in fact, a tip in terms, so I talk about Anjali Dab and the Bulilit Kitchen, which is in the food industry. In fact, I asked her, I said, so why did you, from travel, it's kind of far to go to food. So why did you do it? In fact, the food industry that she went into was the barbecue isaw, but hygienic street food, which is a little shocking.
Okay.
But eventually she pivoted. The last time I checked, she had 2 chefs and she pivoted. She now sell upgraded crabs and a few other things because she now have chef. But you see, this is how she pivoted. And this is, in fact, consistent with the 45 companies in 17 countries that I've studied. One of the ways to pivot is to ask yourself, what is your competency? What are you good at? So if we have, without travel, what are you good at? And apparently they are, Anjali Dab, she is good in customer service.
Okay.
And number 2 is she has a database of customer where she can serve food. And this is how she started. And, she was just interested to help the community and the people to have a job, no? So, the second way is actually to look at your purpose. And she got both, looking at competency and looking at purpose. And I will enjoin everybody to take a look at their purpose. I'll enjoin everybody to take a look at their competencies.
Right, your purpose, your why,
Yes.
that is why you do the things that you do.
Yes.
For a lot of our industry stakeholders, they have probably put up a hotel, for example, because they wanted to provide the hospitality, the service of, welcoming people.
Correct.
You can pivot that to something else beyond the physical infrastructure that you have. What would be an example for someone, let's say, who has a hotel and wants to pivot?
One of the things is not to have there's such thing called paradigm paralysis. Because you call it hotel, therefore you start thinking like a hotel. For people who ask me about hotel, I tell them, you'll call it a hotel. I don't call it a hotel because I'm not in love with your product.
Okay.
I see physical infrastructure, which means it's a physical infrastructure. What else can you do with your physical infrastructure?
Because essentially what you're providing is an experience for your guest, right?
Correct.
It's beyond just a roof
it doesn't
over
have
your
to
head.
be a hotel.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be providing for guests. As I said, it could be, I gave an example of Fab Hotel, which is actually targeting employers, in fact. Because when you go back, you have to go back to social distance. You cannot, tell people not to report for work for life. I mean, that's impossible.
Right. Okay, so I think we are ready with our questions from our audience. So, okay, so we're going to flash the first question right now. Okay, so our first question comes from Marlon Villarin. So his question is, how long will it take for the Philippine tourism to recover from its losses due to the pandemic? And are these stories or best practices from other countries that are worth considering or looking to for Philippine tourism to bounce back?
Yeah. I'm going to post a study done in terms of the recovery period. I didn't mention it, but in my blog, I'm going to put the source document in terms of the recovery period. But, just to answer that, I explicitly stated that assuming the World Health Organization will declare that we are now COVID-free, it will, SARS took 3 to 6 months. So you start counting from all the 10 factors are already ready. You start counting 3 to 6 months. You cannot start predicting without, the prerequisite is World Health Organization or the vaccines, whichever comes first.
Right. And you did mention earlier for there to be a declaration of no SARS, it took 8 months. In this case, definitely it's a longer
It's going to be longer.
period.
So is it going to be next year? I don't want to sugarcoat it, but it's probably going to be in 2021 at the earliest.
At the earliest.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go to our second question. We have from Gemma Isaac. As COVID-19 cases increase every day, a lot of people, like me, feel some uncertainty. What mindset or paradigm should an SME like me have?
One of the things that I mentioned is about resiliency. But resiliency is an overused and abused word nowadays. What exactly is resiliency? That's the reason why last week I posted, what is resiliency? There are 10 tools to be resilient. Exactly. In fact, I was helping some people. I said, okay, read the 10 and make a plan based on the 10 individually. Number 1, what does it mean? Do you know physical exercise can help you to be resilient?
That's correct.
There are 10. And, if you sleep the whole day, you're going to feel so lousy. Spirituality is another one. Having goals is another one. There are 10 different factors.
So what you're saying, Josiah, is beyond thinking about your business, focusing also on the other aspects of your life, perhaps, that will enable you to address the situation.
And it starts with a goal. Because you cannot say, what is the strategy for this? And I always tell them, because I talk about strategy all the time. And I always say, there is no strategy, it's a goal. And your goal is to survive. Survive this year. And if you have to do an extra income in another business, do it. Don't feel ashamed because these are legitimate jobs. No?
Yeah, Josiah, thinking of surviving is one thing. In the long term, how do you assure that beyond the knee-jerk reactions that you make now, how do you prepare yourself for other opportunities? Because, it's hard to always have them hand in hand, to survive and to create new opportunities. So how do you guarantee a mindset that you're able to do that?
I'm going to tell you 2 different levels of survival. The first level of survival is many companies pivoted to providing face masks and PPE clothes, those in the fashion industry. But that's going to be gone, by the time the vaccine is there, that's going to be gone. The second level is you start pivoting to a business that will become your second business once the travel industry bounce back. Which means right now, medyo lilo ka muna sa travel industry, but you have a new business, and then, in other words, if you cannot do what you're doing, what else are you going to? And I told you, based on your competencies, based on what you're good at, your capabilities, so that in the future you will have two different businesses. You can still think about the temporary, but it's not going to go very far because the next crisis might come again. And what are you going to do? You don't have another business.
That's right, Josiah. If I may share, as an aside, you do know that I produce and host The Final Pitch on CNN Philippines.
Correct.
Our upcoming season is going to be looking for businesses that have pivoted to the new normal, but coming up with new normal solutions. So these are after the survival mode. These are looking to adapt a new way of doing business into their current business. So we're looking for people who are like that.
And may I suggest, maybe you might have a pre-qualifier that you want to look at the level 2 people instead of the level 1 people, because you can pivot temporarily, but you have to think long term.
Define level 2, level 1.
Level 1 is temporary. If you're in fashion, pivot to face mask, PPE. But when the crisis is gone, who are you going to sell PPE to?
Right.
Correct? Yeah, I mean, unless the Philippines or whatever country is going to start like the Japanese, they put face masks. No? Level 2 is they come up with a new business that will last a long time, not based on crisis. But, I go back to Anjali. Anjali's pivot to a food business is going to last. Why? Because after the crisis, people can still buy.
Correct.
And after the crisis, she's going to have 2 businesses. Can you imagine the number of employees that she can help hire and so forth and so on? That's an example of level 1 and 2. So which means we have to think long term instead of short term. But we also need short term in order to survive.
Correct. That's Wage He right there.
Yes.
Okay, our next question. This is our last question, in fact. So our last question, is from our good friend Anthony Pangilinan.
Yes.
So he asks, if the curve is not flattened this year, is this a possibility? Will international and local tourism have to accept the brutal facts and grin and bear it for as long as needed? What encouragement can you give to the industry players, especially the small ones whose pockets are not as deep as others?
Okay.
Because you mentioned earlier, SM. You talked about SM. Those are very deep pockets.
Sure.
Right?
I'm going to tell you, there are really, the whole thing is really about 3 things. You have to subdivide, a macro perspective. The first thing is save as many people as possible. Get them away from the COVID. But the second thing is you have to save the SME, save businesses. But the third thing is you have to put money in the pocket of people who have no money. Okay, so how are you going to do it? Because, if you start saying, okay, we're going to do one, save people, and we're going to give money to the people, but, if the people will be jobless, what are you going to do? Because if you don't save the SME, people will be jobless. And that's the reason why I gave 3 case studies to end my presentation on how you can spur domestic tourism. Because it is actually giving money to the consumer and say, I'm giving you income tax break. I'm giving you digital discount. If you don't use it, bahala ka, may expiration yan. If you don't use it, then, it's your loss. If you use it, it's going to help the SME. So in a way, there are really 2 sides, no? But I understand, of course, in the Philippines, the socioeconomic, in terms of the population breakdown, the socioeconomics of the income class, has a high proportion. In fact, about 1/3, if I'm not mistaken, belong to that. And I understand that's what's going to happen. But I have always mentioned it's always 3 things. It's not about 1 and 3.
Right.
It's about 1, 2, and 3. You've got to be able to do that. Now, I'll give you a specific example. I'm going to be radical in my recommendation.
Okay.
Okay?
The more radical, the better.
The more radical, the better. Okay, so you asked me to give a talk. I'm going to be radical. what if suddenly a country, any country for that matter, would suddenly say, okay, I am going to give you 400% tax credit for payroll.
For payroll.
For payroll. In other words, if you spent 100,000, you can claim 400,000 as an expense.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
You are SME. Now, here's my question. You know, one government offered you. Are you going to fire people or not? Because that will make you rethink, oops, I am being given this tax credit. And therefore, maybe I should not retrench people. Because people now become an asset.
Correct.
I should retain them. You get what I'm saying? I'm giving you specific, radical recommendation.
A lot of your recommendations today are very systemic. In fact, the government agencies who are listening right now should heed those suggestions, because I feel this is the perfect opportunity to be able to influence policy on a national scale.
I hope so. I hope so. I meant no offense if I have, I don't mean to, if the government agencies are from other department are listening, give me a call. I'll be glad to help and
I'm sure
give my opinion.
no offense was taken. They are merely radical suggestions.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
But that's where everything begins.
Yeah.
Josiah, I hope you see your grandson soon.
I hope so.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay.
Marami pong salamat.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. And that officially closes the Q&A for Mr. Josiah Go. I hope we all learned a lot and took notes of Mr. Go's playbook. I don't know about you, but I sure learned a number of things today. We will now move to the next speaker after this 5-minute break. Please stay tuned and continue sharing our Facebook Live and YouTube Live with the hashtags #LES2020, #DOTNCR, #Recharge, and #Revitalize.
I just woke up from the time of my life. It started with a major throwback. Then I got to meet the big shots. I found a sweet spot between cultures and hung out with the artsy crowd. I even picked up a few things along the way. After that, things kicked into overdrive. It started with a whirlwind through the streets. An unforgettable eats. A celebration of flavor in every bite. And an epic new party at every turn. The best thing about it here, the good times are never over.
Bright lights, city sights, shopping malls, little stalls, flip-flops, rock and roll, street smart, fine art, new and old, bronze, gold, warm, charm, hot and cold. Quick bites, foodie finds, nice smiles, wild style, cheap thrills, sky high, knick-knacks, welcome back. Every corner, fun, fun, fun. Manila, welcome back.
Welcome back to the DOT NCR's Learning Excellence Series 2020. Recharge and Revitalize. Wala pa pala. We are coming to you live from Marriott Hotel at Resorts World Manila, and this event is also live on Zoom, at Tourism MNL on Facebook, and Twitter, and YouTube. Let the world know you're here by sharing our Facebook and YouTube Live. You can also catch our real-time updates on Twitter at TourismMNL with the hashtags #LES2020, #DOTNCR, #Recharge, and #Revitalize to know what people are saying about this event so far. Our next speaker, and I know everyone knows him, so I'm excited too, one of our country's most esteemed and highly acclaimed thought leaders. He is a multi-awarded entrepreneur, columnist, and one of the most renowned and respected business speakers in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome, live remotely, Mr. Francis Kong.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I want to give my personal thanks to Madam Secretary and our friends from the Department of Tourism. This is not my first time to be with you. It's been a lot of engagements we had in the past years, and I'm so happy to be here. And I learned so much from Josiah. I have one distinctive advantage over Josiah that he doesn't have, because I have my first apo with me right now in my house. So, learning so much from him, and I just want to encourage everybody that I think what our friends from the Department of Tourism is doing, we have to exploit, we have to take advantage, and adding value to the stakeholders. So it's one beautiful thing that the department is doing, and so I'm happy to be here with you. Now let me go straight to some ideas that I want to share with you, which I hope you're going to find useful. In March 21 of 2009, I wrote an article in my Philippine Star column entitled "A Million Frog Legs." And let me read to you an excerpt of the article, because this is going to form the structure of which I will present my ideas. A farmer came into town and asked the owner of a restaurant if he could use 1 million frog legs. The restaurant owner was shocked and asked the man where he could get so many frog legs. The farmer replied, "There's a pond near my house that is full of frogs, millions of them. They croak all during the night and are about to drive me crazy." And so the restaurant owner and the farmer made an agreement, and that the farmer would deliver frogs to the restaurant, 500 at a time, for the next several weeks. Frog legs are a delicacy. The first week, the farmer returned to the restaurant looking rather sheepish with the 2 scrawny little frogs. And the restaurant owner said, "Well, where are all the other frogs?" And then the farmer said, "I was mistaken. There were only 2 to 3 frogs in the pond, but they're just making a lot of noises." Ladies and gentlemen, today we hear a lot of noises everywhere we go, and COVID-19 is front and center to everything, and that is justifiable and understandable. But as an entrepreneur myself, as a person who is engaged in business all my entire life, we need to be able to dissect, understand, and discern the difference between noises and voices. And so, the doom and gloom scenarios presented, they're okay because we need to be informed. But unless we take a different perspective from an entrepreneurial view, then we might just lose hope. And that's my business with you this afternoon. Well, let me just start by saying, what is COVID-19? COVID-19 is a pandemic. What is a pandemic? A pandemic is merely an epidemic with passports. It has gone global. And so, the first thing I want you to understand is this. COVID-19 is not the end of the world. This too will pass. And the second thing I want to share with you now is this. COVID-19 is not a dead end. It is a mere detour. I was listening to Josiah earlier, and I was kind of smiling when he was referring to the crisis of the 80s. The advantage of Josiah and I, being in business for the longest time, is that we have gone through different crises. I remember the 70s and the 80s political turmoil. I remember the 45% interest on loans in the 80s. I remember the 1997 Asian financial crisis. I remember the year 2000 911 crisis. And I remember the more recent 2007 to 2009 subprime mortgage debacle. And guess what? They all passed, but they all live a different world behind. In the field of travel totally changed after 911. And so, this can be a little bit disconcerting for me. You know, I average something like 300 talks and trainings and seminars and speaking engagements every year. Suddenly, when COVID-19 and lockdown began, everything is gone. But not really. I will explain in a little while. You know, in my profession, I'm used to the fact that they usually invite me to give huge talks and filling up grand ballrooms and convention centers. And that's why somehow I still miss those days when I can go and shake your hand and do beso beso and then do a little bit of a selfie together, but those things are gone. They may be back perhaps, but even if they do come back, things are going to be different. But meanwhile, thank God for technology. We can still be together. Well, I couldn't go to Mario today because this morning I had another one with another client, so it's going to be very difficult for me to travel too, but at least we're still together. Why? The reason is very simple. We adapt. We have to start with that mindset saying that we can adapt. Something has been said about Charles Darwin's famous quotation, although scholars today are refuting that. Scholars today are saying Charles Darwin never said it, but he did say something like this quotation now is very important for you and me. It is not the highest of intelligence or the fittest of the species that will survive, but it will be those who are adaptable to change. Same thing for business, and same thing for you and me. And now, I still do a lot of talks. I do a lot of webinars. As a matter of fact, I find myself reaching out to a lot more people today than I used to when I was doing on ground. We adapt. You will adapt. Everybody will have to adapt. Let me share with you things that are happening right now. You may know this, but I'm just going to bring all of this data together to form a perspective. Work from home is going to be here to stay. The age-old debate of, itong mga millennials na to, they want to work from home, but will their productivity be maintained? That is moot and academic. Today, it has been found out that work from home now produces the same amount of productivity. Other companies are seeing a lot more productivity. As a matter of fact, the number one challenge now for work from home, according to my clients, when I talk with them, it is that many of them are overworking. They don't have boundaries. That's another topic for itself. Work from home has revealed that people can still be productive. However, there is a need to acquire more skills. Well, work from home is an entirely new thing. The moment Jack Dorsey, the EVP of Twitter, says we're going to allow 95% of our employees to work from home forever, suddenly you see Mark Zuckerberg, you see Jeff Bezos, and everybody else, including our own companies here, thinking along the same way. We will have to redefine what an office is. And I don't think during these very difficult times, employers are going to be spending more money renting office space just to accommodate physical distancing. But we need to build more skills. That is part of adapting. We need to learn more skills in doing Zoom, in doing video conferences, Cisco WebEx, Barnyard, StreamYard, Google Meet, and Microsoft Teams, whatever. I'll give you an example. There are many people now doing Zoom and they don't really understand. You don't sit in front of a camera with the lights behind you. because the laptop camera is going to adjust automatically and you're going to appear very dark in front of the cameras. It is as if you have enrolled in a witness protection program. So there are new skills. The most common expressions today is, can you hear me? I can hear you. Unmute mo, unmute. Today, what do you hear? You hear babies crying, dogs barking, cars honking. What do you see? You see bad hairstyles, unshaven faces, and then you begin to hear the sound coming from exhaust pipes of both trucks and from other human parts. Next, one thing I want you to understand now is digital is the new default. We are entering the contactless economy. And so, when COVID-19 broke, you and I need to understand this thing. Whatever it was that we were doing until now, these are not innovation. No, no, no. Innovation will come later. We are merely adapting. And adapting is not yet done. We still are doing that. Next, the key to business recovery is to restore confidence. Confidence not only in our clients, but customer also in our people. Many of them are so afraid. A lot of them went to the provinces and they feel like they don't want to come back to NCR because they don't want to take the risk. Next, never was there a time when ideas travel faster than now. My goodness, ideas now get so fast to be implemented. The pandemic has eliminated a lot of bureaucracies and egos. Do you remember the time when you had an idea, you had to run it through your manager goes through the boss, and boss goes to the department head, and the department head goes to the area manager, so forth and so on. And there were a lot of egos, and you find a lot of people saying, ano naman yan? Bakit ako binaypass? You know, until today, there are still people doing that, and I don't understand that. They love talking about, bakit ako binaypass? Maybe they like to go to Philippine Heart Center. There's a lot of bypass happening there. Next, the pandemic now has forced parents to learn about homeschooling in weeks, a skill that they are learning, and they still continue to. Next, there are businesses discovering that even while they minimize the number in their factories and in their workplace, the productivity retains itself. That is something that surprised them. And then, many things have accelerated almost structurally. Everything digital. I'm going to be speaking to the medical field again. Ever since the lockdown began, I have almost addressed maybe about 3 times or 4 times medical doctors. Do you know that telemedicine in America used to be in their teen numbers, 17, 18%, 19%? Today, it has gone up to 78 to 80+%, and then it's continuously growing pa. And so it gives rise to a brand new industry. The country manager of an international bank here in the Philippines says the number or the dramatic increase in household savings has been at its highest level ever since. So things like this are happening. What am I trying to do? What I'm doing is that as business people, you need to see the challenges, you need to see the changes, and I hope that after my presentation, you're going to see opportunities ahead as well. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to remember one thing, and this is important. COVID-19 is not the end of the world. This too will pass. And another thing I want to reassure you is this. COVID-19 is not a dead end. It is a detour. But I have to be realistic. This is not the time to be selling false hopes and optimism. As a business person, you can't afford to do that. You have to be optimistically realistic as well. Some businesses will not be able to make it. And as Josiah was saying, you better have to find partners and then get together with them, and some will really close. And that is the unfortunate circumstance. Now, during the lockdown, I was invited to be the keynote speaker of the Philippine Travel Agents Association. And I remember many years ago, during the pre-COVID time, they invited me to speak then. Their favorite place used to be Sofitel. And they asked me a serious question. They said, Mr. Speaker, will the internet, now those were the days of the personal computer invading our personal space, And the question was, will the internet destroy the travel agency industry? I remember what I said then. It's going to be the same thing I'm going to be saying now. I said, no. The internet will not destroy your travel agency industry. The internet will only eliminate those that have never been efficient. And I guess after this, it's going to be the same way. Those that are efficient can outlast this. Those that have never been efficient will have to pivot and consider other options. Meanwhile, we need to look at things from a macro perspective in order to understand the situation, because I'm in business. I own businesses, and I still am part of business. In fact, I sit on the board of a company that is very, very close to their hearts, the Department of Tourism, and that is Primer. We have 400 retail stores. During the first week of the lockdown, all of them are closed. Now, the last time I spoke with Jimmy, the president, now we are about 300 plus opening, and some more are opening then. And of course, there are certain inefficient stores that we do have to close. So can you imagine the challenges too? But then things are improving little bit, but our online and e-commerce facility has just improved by thousands of folds. Why? You and I understand the importance of adapting. And so people in the organization now are also so overwhelmed because these are things that they've never experienced before. I am now beset with invitations to speak to clients who would want me to encourage and educate their people. Why? They are going through immense pressure. Every single person in this planet on this side of eternity is struggling and fighting against health issues and financial issues too. And so the fear, the anxiety, and everything else is there. You can easily spot what they're doing. Companies now are entering into wellness programs. The government is not exempted. I just finished doing a round of training for all the leaders of the DILG sector in their wellness program as well. And that's what's happening right now. And so as business owners and leaders, you may have an extra layer of pressure. You need to understand, you have to make sure that you're taking care of your people, you are taking care of your family, you have to take care of yourself, and that can be very taxing. I understand that. The sheer volume of your work can be overwhelming. You are making decisions and you don't have the complete information, and change is happening on a day-to-day basis. That's why some of you, I would like you to understand, be patient with your managers and leaders too. They are going to have a lot of pressures on their hands. And they're going to give you instructions, and then maybe 2 days or 3 days later, they're going to change the instructions totally. Why? Because nobody sees the big picture yet, as of now. Your people are pressured too. That is the price of leadership. You have to take care of your people. I have to take care of our people. And it's very, very difficult. And so I'm going to share with you certain ideas that I hope you'll find useful. Internet connection today is the lifeline of every business and economy. Recovery, business, Josiah talked about that, but you don't stay in the recovery stage. Now we are entering the redesigning stage. And after that, you have to go into reinvention or even go into reimagining, because this is what's going to happen, and we have to be prepared for opportunities. Reality is that the mission of what we do still maintains itself. What I'm saying is the methods may change, but our mission remains the same. What is your mission? Your mission still is to stay close to your customers. But that's why the Department of Tourism is doing this. You're the stakeholders. They want to stay close to you. They still have to add value. Your customers want to hear from you. This morning, my advice to my client is that your clients and your dealers and your distributors want to hear from you. Communicating with them should not be delegated to your account managers, even though they're going to ask you questions and they probably know you don't have the answer, but they just want you to be there. That's why you still have to take care of your top 20% of your clientele and stay close to them and maintain communication and ask them, how are you guys coping? If there's anything within our capability to do so, we'll be there to help you. You need to reimagine your business. And what I'm saying is, even now, as we're going through this, you have to build your brand. This is the best opportunity for you to build trust, to build relationship, because when things normalize, you're going to be top of mind, and they will partner with you because they understand that you are what it takes to be reliable and dependable, no matter what the situation is. Meanwhile, what do? We roll with the punch. And then we get our bearings together and prepare for the new world that awaits us. There are two things I want to share with you now that is so important. Business is seasonal. Business is cyclical. I learned this from a man I greatly respect. In 1997, in 1998, he invited me to do a training for his leaders. I miss him so much. He is a visionary leader, and unfortunately, he was involved in that helicopter crash. His name is Levi Laos from San Fernando, Pampanga. And I was amazed when I entered his place, and I said, Mr. Laos, why did you spend millions of pesos spending in this beautiful state-of-the-art sound system equipment training room? And he gave me a lesson I'll never forget. Until now, I still use it. He says, look, Francis, while all of my competitors are laying off people and retrenching people and so forth and so on, I figured nobody's buying cars now. My people now, they have so much time on their hand. This is the best time for you to train them. And then when they get trained and they get so sharp, and then two things I learned from him: business is cyclical, business is seasonal. He says, by that time, when things go back to normal, my people will be the sharpest people in town, and we're going to take the lead and exploit the opportunities ahead, while my competitors will have to start from ABC 1, 2, 3. And indeed, that was what happened, isn't it? I learned from him. Now, meanwhile, these are two things that other people will be doing. Number one, they will sacrifice their marketing budget. And number two, they will sacrifice their training budget. Not very good things to do. Number one, marketing now. Well, Josiah's field, he's an expert here. It doesn't mean full blast marketing, traditional thing that he used to do with multi-million pesos. Now marketing can be targeted, but then it involves a lot of social media and a lot of targeted things. And secondly, you don't stop training your people. You need to let your people know that you've covered their backs. You need to inspire them. You need to encourage them. You need to let them go through and help them. Well, number one, their priority is safety. And I know you know that. Number two is, what about the mental health condition? You have to continuously help them, give them wellness programs. They need it at this time, especially at this time. Well, I'm done with the business aspect of things. And now I want to be personal, and I'm going to address you as business leaders. Here are some things I hope you're going to find useful. And so, in my opinion, the leader's primary responsibility is to take care of their people. We know that. So, I want you to understand this very important thing. As business leaders, you need to show empathy. You need to show compassion. You need to be a lot more patient. Just imagine, your people are pressured. They might not tell you, but imagine this, huh? This is the first time in their life wherein their work life, their personal life, their family life all converge at the same place and at the same time. That's added pressure, isn't it? Next, their spouse are with them. Next, their kids are with them. So can you imagine all these pressures? Next, you're going to be giving them decisions that will not work. We understand that. Next, you're going to be giving them instructions, and maybe 2 days later, you're going to change the instruction because you and I are operating on a day-to-day change and development basis. They too are stressed. So you need to be very compassionate with them. And when you do your Zoom and your meeting, do not immediately start with the agenda. Oh, our agenda for today. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them how they're coping. Ask them if there's anything within your capability to provide, and you're going to be there to support them. there will be a dramatic increase now for the need to train your people in soft skills. I am not kidding. That is going to be important. Well, just made me think. I hope you appreciate what the Department of Tourism is doing by presenting all these things because they want to add value to you, but you need to add value to your people as well. That is one thing you cannot afford to neglect. Number two, you also have to be very patient with your bosses and with your managers and your leaders. They too have added layers of pressure, and their pressures are a lot more than ours. This is a time for everybody now to work together. I oftentimes hear people say, we are all in the same boat. Yeah, but we may not have the same storms. Your boss's storms are many times bigger than yours. So you have to be patient, you have to cut them some slack, and you have to understand that they too are working on a day-to-day development basis. They don't have the answers, nobody does. Number three, and this is a command, you got to take care of yourself. You ain't good at leading anyone if you're not healthy yourself, right? And so you got to take care of yourself. You got to maintain health. What? In your mind, in your head, in your body. Take care. In your soul, spiritual aspect, in your emotions. These are the things that you're going to take care of. And taking care of yourself is not selfish. Why? Sometimes some people, they're just so engrossed in taking care of others, they have neglected themselves, and then they find themselves no more in the position of helping others. Let me give you a very good example. Remember pre-COVID days when we used to take a plane flight, and before the plane takes off, what does the flight attendant says? And then the flight attendant will say, in the unlikely event of ditching, oxygen mask are going to drop from the ceiling. And if you are carrying a child, put the mask on. Sino po? Yourself. And then when I was thinking about that, I said, what happens when you're carrying two children? You got to decide which one you love more. No, you don't do that. You got to take care of yourself first. And so, that is self-care. It is not selfishness. Well, the opposite of self-care is self-absorption. What is self-absorption? Ako muna. I better take care of myself. Bahalan na yung mga tao ko. Bahalan sila sa buhay. No. We're not talking about that. You take care of yourself. And so, here are some suggested ideas that I hope you're going to find useful. Share this with your people. Share this with your family. And then, I hope you'll find some practical use. Let me offer some quick suggestions. Number one, you got to take care of your mental health now. You need to be updated, but you don't want to be consumed. In other words, don't be fixated with the news. News are news cycles 24/7. We need to be updated, but the reality of news is that there are only little things that are new. And then when they say breaking news, no, it's an endless news cycles of the same thing being spoken by different people, presented in different ways. It's the same stuff. If you're not careful about it, that negativity is going to creep up into your mind. It's going to affect your disposition. Two things more. Number one, don't join those negative ranting and cussing and cursing in social media. They're not going to add value to you. And next, do not send forth and pass all those gloom conspiracy theories because you never know. You just might hit someone who's struggling with depression, and that's not going to be good for others too. I would like to suggest that you fill your minds with good things. Well, I have had this routine. I fill my mind first thing in the morning with scriptures and prayer. I call that quiet time. What do? When I pray, I talk to God. When I read scriptures, He talks to me. Not bad an idea, because we built our inner strength muna so that we can be prepared to face the outer challenge. Next thing I want to share with you now is this. So by the way, when work is work, you work. But you got to spend the early morning in your time doing creative work. That's when the time when the mind is more fresh. And then you do administrative work during the afternoon time. But you got to cool down, yes. And then when you cool down, you prepare yourself for rest. You still have your family with you, don't you? And then when you cool down, you want to reward yourself by watching new movies. Good. May I suggestion? May I make a suggestion? Don't watch movies like Brad Pitt's The World of Battle Z World or something. Don't watch Vampires and Walking Dead and Contagion. You don't need those stuff. Why don't you watch inspirational movies together with the kids? Make it a platform to teach them values as well. Watch movies like Chariots of Fire, Pursuit of Happiness, and then watch how these people pick up ideas on how to be resilient and bounce back from great adversities and trials. And another thing is this. If you have teenagers in the house, be careful. I wouldn't want them to be watching a lot of movies now that are so dark and gloomy and so depressing. And there's seemingly a deterioration of moral values when you watch movies, and that's not good. So, my wife and I, we talk a lot and we smiled and we said, we have discovered to stay away from doom and gloom movies, and then we just watch some romantic comedies that puts a smile on our face, and we watch Korean telenovela na lang, like Crash Landing on You or something else. But you get a point, right? Number two, I want to share with you now is this. You got to fill yourself with positive activities. Don't stop learning. Hey, read good books, read good articles, and then get good references. Next, you got to build up more skills. It's amazing. My daughter happens to be a famous fashion designer in doing wedding gowns and cocktail dresses. Now weddings are gone. And so she repurposed. She's doing designer masks and it's doing very well. But many of her friends in the wedding industry, they don't have business. So what do? Hey, many of them has discovered that they can bake, they can cook. This famous aburi now, ito yung mga baked sushi and everything. Many of them come from flower arrangers and they're doing great business. They keep on pivoting. They learn, discover new skills. The latest skill that my wife, whom I fondly call the Ilocana, has been able to discover is cutting my hair. So now I don't have problems with having to look for a barber. She can cut my hair. And she has practically cut my hair 4 times. The only downside is it takes her 3 hours, and that's okay. Increases our bonding time. The next thing I want to share with you now is this. You got to create a routine, and the routine involves what? Exercise, eating healthy, taking vitamins. Hey, get sunlight. Do not be deprived and do not go dehydrated. Drink water, get sunlight. Somebody says, you and I basically are similar to houseplants with more complicated emotions. I think that's true. Next, hey, physical isolation does not mean social isolation. You gotta Zoom your friends. Keep tab with them. You still have the friends. You are working from home, but you are not home alone, all right? We still need our friends. And so today I find myself reaching out to a lot of friends that I did not used to have time before, and I'm enjoying the company. And lastly, I want to share with you a very important thing. Enjoy your time with your family, my goodness. This is the best time to bond with them. And if you have teens, don't go into non-stop sermonizing 24/7 because you got to understand your kids are having problems too. For example, your kids now, they miss their schools, they miss their friends, they miss their clubs. Some of them are playing varsity, playing hard in practices, going to make the varsity, and now all things are gone. Be kind to them too. Give them fun. Have fun, all right? And this is the most important thing. If this is applicable to you, get ready now. Get ready. Eto na po. If you want to have peace and harmony in your home, love your mother-in-law, all right? You're going to have peace and harmony. Well, let me conclude. COVID-19 is not the end of the world. This too will pass. It is not a dead end, it is a detour. Change is upon us. We may have to change a lot of methods in which we do things and we do business, but the mission remains the same. Give value to your people. Add value to your stakeholders. Stay close to them. Communicate. You may not have all the answers, but they may not necessarily be asking for the answers. They just want to know you're there. And then you're accessible as well. All things will pass. Let me just end by saying this. You got to hold on to the faith. But you got to have the bravery to to face the realities of the situation and manage the moment. Manage the moment. So hold on to the faith. Well, what is my faith that I hold on to? Ever since COVID-19 happens, I find myself having to ask and answer a lot of questions. So, Francis, what do you think about the future? What can you say? I said, how would I know? But one thing I know is this. I know that God holds the future, even though I don't know what the future holds. And in my past experiences, crisis has always been there. But we just have to be strong. And at the end of the day, this is history in the making. You and I are creating our own story. And the narratives that we are presenting, they are going to be the legacy we're going to be turning over to the future generations. Because this pandemic will certainly be not the last. They may even have others. This is the time to prepare a good legacy for our children, and a time and a platform to build values and attitude building and character development while we are together with our children and with our people now. So, all of us, we have to stay strong. You have to stay strong so that you can lend your strength to others who would need it. And when this is over, as we are strong, we will emerge stronger together. Thank you for giving me your time, and maraming salamat for having me. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francis
You're
Kong,
welcome.
live and working from home.
Yeah.
Hello, Francis. How are you today?
Oh, I'm better than I deserve. And I'm actually enjoying the lockdown. As a matter of fact, I'm having so much fun. I figured that if the lockdown is lifted, I won't tell anyone.
We'll make sure you do that. But you know what? I've been looking at you. You look as dapper as always. And I really appreciate your advice on people who are using Zoom right now. Not a lot of people are aware that you should present yourself as you would when you're meeting the person, right? So good
Yes,
lighting,
correct.
you should dress well. In your case, you look really well. Napakabango niyo pong tignan. I may not smell you right now. But the big question, really, that probably everyone has been thinking, you look really well right now. Are you wearing pants or are you wearing shorts?
Wearing pants, all right?
There you go. So that is a rarity because I know that everyone else wears shorts. So
And
that is
I'm
one
wearing
lesson from the
leather
master
shoes,
himself.
by the way, for your information. I'm wearing leather shoes as well.
There you go. There you go. So that's a lesson we can learn from the master. And you know, I wanted to also comment because earlier you said that you've been getting a deluge of requests to be able to speak and share your knowledge. And I just also like to share, which something that's closer to home. My brother, Martin Aguilar, who is a consultant with DOT, he also is or has been going around the Philippines. Pre-COVID, he's been, you know, out in different provinces almost every week. Now, there is a, I guess, you know, some things suffer, maybe quality time with family and all that. But with the new normal now, there is more interaction online. He does not necessarily have to go all the way to the provinces. There is a benefit to that. Now, you said yourself, this is something that you're comfortable with, but we also need to consider there are a lot of trade-offs as well. Online is good, but like you said, there is less physical interaction. You cannot shake the hands of the person. And in a lot of times also, the networking that you can do is very limited if it is online. How do you address that?
It is a very difficult situation for us, especially we Filipinos we are very social. And can you imagine, and can you also imagine, like something as basic as shaking hands, but doing mano po now is going to be something that will be challenged. But the thing is this, as I said earlier, the methods may change. The mission remains the same. Like for example, as we're doing video conferencing right now, the mission still remains the same. It is the content that is more important. And so the relationship can still be there. And this is the funny thing. Video conferencing now enables you to see up close and personal the person. And I have had cases wherein people now were telling me that with video, with Zooming, you can actually see nuances of the facial expressions when people are saying things to you. And without the knowledge of the person doing it, they can feel and sense the sincerity and the passion behind it as well. Well, those things are going to come back. Maybe one day we hope that when the vaccine comes back and then things are going to be normal. But then this is the best that we can do. Let's use technology to enable us to be close to our friends and our people. Here's the key I want you to remember. Do not linger on missing the things we will no longer have. That way you're going to be depressed. But we don't worry about the things that will happen tomorrow. You're going to be anxious. But what we do is we enjoy everything that we have for the moment and make the best use of it.
Living in the moment is what we are doing right now. And I would like to now read the first question from our audience.
Okay.
And the first question is from Kevin Tabora from Facebook, via Facebook. What's the best approach in telling clients to adhere to proper working hours in work from home setups? Very, very sensitive question here. What is the best approach to tell clients to adhere to proper working hours?
I have a concern, because if the question is that you have to give advice to your clients, it may not be a very good thing to do. Clients are clients. And so I would like to suggest that if maybe you would want to advise your clients to take part in these webinars about how to encourage their people to properly work from home. And so, but now that you know, maybe you would like to suggest things that I have just shared. Well, you gotta get new skills in trying to operate with the new technology. You have to have a routine. You have to have the proper etiquette by wearing pants, by the way. And so there are things that you would like to do. But if they are your clients that you are addressing, you might want to provide them with a training program that can help them. And that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, and I guess it's also basic human courtesy. We do tend to forget a lot of things just because we're at home. So, thank you for that, because you are bringing it down to the level of not just looking at the present, but also the sanity of the employees moving to the future. So we'll now get to the second question we have from our audience.
Okay.
So the second question is from Virgilio Gonzalez, and he asks, since technology continuously progresses, how can tourism businesses adopt and be strategically effective during the new normal?
Well, first of all, I forgot to say something because of time constraints that I need to say now. Everybody uses now, today it's a cliche, we are now in the new normal. But this is just me. You don't have to agree with me. We're not there yet. For us to say that this is the new normal, normal means we have arrived at an acceptable measurement and references that we can adhere to. We're not there. And as a matter of fact, for the next few months to come, maybe even years, we will now enter from one next normal to the next normal, because things are going to change. Therefore, in terms of technology, I did not want to infringe on marketing, because we have an expert before me, and of course, we learned so much from Josiah. But digital marketing now has to be a new strategy that we have to enhance. Let me just give you some basic example. If you have not touched your website for the longest time, your website now is going to be the business card and the brochure that presents everything, and that should enable you to be able to communicate with your clients. And then while physical distancing is in order, they may not come close to you to know more about you, but they will judge you according to what you present in your marketing materials using the digital tools. Next is that when it comes to operations now, well, many of the stakeholders of the Department of Tourism are also my clients. I mean, the hotels and the resort owners, you know, Today, you can use AI for data mining and then increasing your network, and you just have to stay close to them, and you have to repurpose your marketing ideas and then your marketing tools using technology now to enhance the way you're going to reach out to your people as well. And lastly, this is fantastic. There was a time when invitations for me used to come from HR people, rightly so, because they wanted me to train. Today, I find a lot of my invitations coming from marketing managers. Two reasons. They have a lot of unused budget. With the closure of one network company, you understand that they put everything on hold. And secondly, they are leveraging their marketing activities using technology now in order to build prospective clientele attraction and also to provide value-added services to their existing clients. And so you need to keep yourself abreast and then keep yourself aware of what new technology that can add to your customer service requirements. And for you to enhance your way to be reaching out not only to your existing clients, but to create new clients and customers as well. So you have to be intentional there.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And now we are going to the third question. And this question comes from Jay Bautro, and he asks, how to maintain good management and supervision during the pandemic despite less personal interactions? I think we broached on that earlier, the lack of the intimacy that is natural when you're face-to-face with someone. So
Yes.
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought here is that even before the pandemic, and even when we had physical interaction with our people, that doesn't necessarily mean that you had good management and leadership, do you? I mean, there's a lot of ego tripping in the place, and there's a lot of things. Therefore, it is not a matter of distance. It is a matter of the quality of relationship and the content. And so my short answer to you now is this: compassion. This is the time to show empathy. This is the time to show genuine care. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we're all in the same boat, but we don't have the same storms. And sometimes you just need to be stronger so that you can lend your strength to others as well. Physical distance, even when you're close, is no guarantee that you're doing good management. But then good management and good leadership can still be there, even while we are currently in a remote work situation. Just show care.
I must agree, Francis. You said empathy, compassion, that is something that you can readily see when you are in a Zoom call. You did mention the nuances that you can pick up when someone is right in front of you. In fact, I've witnessed some of your talks. You would be addressing hundreds, if not thousands of people. You are this small speck, in a huge sea of people. I cannot get as much from you as I do now, seeing your facial reactions, the way you are able to talk about these intimate things that you are sharing now.
Thank you for those kind words. I love your kind words, but it's made you choppy. Could you repeat the kind words again? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So again, that is one way that we can fish for compliments. Just asking for another, a statement. But I know that you got that, and I know that you're just kidding, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I am. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Okay, so we now go to our last question. And this last question is from Sid Nailin Tan, and she asks, now that the setup is work from home, what is the best way we can improve our communication with each other? What are some beset practices when it comes to tools like best practices when it comes to tools like chat apps? So best practices, you mentioned earlier, Zoom. You have to look good. I think you didn't mention earlier, you also have to sound good. Do you have any comments on that, Francis?
Oh, yes. That's a great question, by the way. And just to let you know, when the speaker says that's a great question, that means the speaker doesn't have an answer yet. So, well, I have an answer for you. Do you realize how difficult it is to prepare for a Zoom conference or a Cisco WebEx or Microsoft Team or whatever, it is so difficult to prepare. Therefore, here are some practices I want to share with you. You got to organize. You have to have an agenda. Just because you are a leader and you feel like there's something important you want to tell the team, you don't demand and command, okay, we're going to have a Zoom meeting in 20 minutes. Man, those guys out there, your team, they have their own stresses and they have their own responsibilities they have to take care of. Therefore, here's the key. You make sure that you use your video conferencing only when you have strategized and you have prepared for it. And then for some important things, there are apps. I mean, you use Viber. You create your Viber group. You have your WhatsApp, and then you have your SMS. You know, let me just share with you a story and experience I had. Before pre-COVID and before Zoom and everything else, we have a rule. If it's not very important, I email you. I don't expect you to answer me right away. You can email me tomorrow, whatever. If it's kind of important, I will SMS you. And you need to make a reply, and then you can say, be back with you in a little while, I'm in a meeting or something. Then, if it's very urgent, you call, don't you? And that's why we have to understand these usages and this protocol so that we will not overwhelm our people. And lastly, if you happen to be doing Zoom and you happen to be doing video conferencing specifically for multinational companies with people from different time zones, let me just make a suggestion. Even if you're the leader, you learn to spread the pain. What do I mean? Okay, this week we're going to follow my time zone, so everybody follows my time zone. Next week, I'm going to follow your time zone. And so we let each one handle each one, and so we spread the pain. So these are some practical things that I hope you find useful, and these are actually protocols that can help maintain our sanity in order to communicate with our people.
Thank you for that, Francis. And if I may add also some tips as well, productivity tips. Not everything needs to be a Zoom call. Sometimes the more efficient thing to do is write an email or, as you said, to send a message. And also, other productivity tools aside from video calls, you have Slack, that's S-L-A-C-K. That is an app that you can use to be able to segment different conversations that you have with your team. So research what you can because there are so many other tools out there. So
yes,
with that,
and let me just add one more thing. Yes. Slack is good. Everything is good. Not TikTok. All right. Okay. All right.
Mr. Francis Kong, final words from you.
Well, leaders will always have an extra layer of pressure, and business owners too. I understand that. That's why a lot of people do not understand. So many people are teaching on leadership. But unless you are a real leader and you're handling a lot of people, you will never understand the pressure. I do. And so a lot of people want to become leaders because they are focused on the perks of leadership. They don't understand there's a price of leadership. But that's what makes you owners. That's what makes you leaders. And then at the end of the day, you have to always remember you got to first take care of yourself, but you got to take care of your people as well. All these things will pass. These things will pass. It's not the end of the world. And finally, this will be a fitting testament to the resilience of the Filipino people. I'm proud to be a Filipino. We have been resilient all throughout the many trials and the difficulties that we have gone through. And we always emerge stronger. You have to. And this one is a great, great, great platform for us to be stronger, to be wiser, to build on our character, and just to become a better person. And that's what we want to aim for. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Francis Kong. Thank you for joining us today and sharing those words of wisdom. Marami pong salamat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we know why he's often called an authority in delivering inspirational speeches. It not only gives us hope, but inspires us to start making change. I myself am truly honored to be part of this event. Thank you, Department of Tourism, National Capital Region. Maraming salamat. We'll be back in a bit and we will have our second and final 5-minute break. Stay tuned.
I just woke up from the time of my life. It started with a major throwback. Then I got to meet the big shots. I found a sweet spot between cultures and hung out with the artsy crowd. I even picked up a few things along the way. After that, things kicked into overdrive. It started with a whirlwind through the streets. An unforgettable eats. A celebration of flavor in every bite. And an epic new party at every turn. The best thing about it here, the good times are never over.
Bright lights, city sights, shopping malls, little stalls, flip-flops, rock and roll, street smart, fine art, new and old, bronze, gold, warm, charm, hot and cold. Quick bites, foodie finds, nice smiles, wild style, cheap thrills, sky high, knick-knacks, welcome back. Every corner, fun, fun, fun. Manila, welcome back.
And we're back to the first part of the Leadership Excellence Series 2020, brought to you by the Department of Tourism, National Capital Region. Yes, that's correct. I said first part, and that is your cue to start expecting more events in this series. So, to know more about what's in store for us in this series, celebrating his first anniversary with us as DOT NCR's Regional Director, let us welcome the leader who brought to us this amazing event, Mr. Woodrow R.R. Makiling Jr.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much. First of all, I wish to acknowledge and thank Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat, whom we have heard in a recorded message earlier with some of the most inspiring words that we ought to hear as we journey towards this uncharted territory now we call the new normal. I must underscore that it is the Secretary's brainchild that brought us online learning courses in the last 4 months, such as innovation and entrepreneurship, culture and heritage, sanitation and hygiene, e-commerce, digital marketing and advertising, mental well-being, and the Department of Tourism's signature topic on the Filipino brand of service excellence. Courses that seek to retool and reskill our stakeholders and tourism workforce as we continue to work on new standards of operations of tourism business. Today, we are very fortunate and honored, in fact, to have with us not only the Secretary, but to have listened and learned from two of the country's most esteemed and highly acclaimed individual, captains of the industry, Mr. Francis Kong and Mr. Josiah Go. On behalf of a grateful audience, which I've been monitoring earlier, whom you have left in awe, I have the honor to thank each one of you for this rare opportunity that you have extended to us and for sharing so generously with some of your most precious wisdom and first-hand life experiences. Truly, we could not think of anyone who could perfectly fit the bill of our online learning course and launch the Leadership Excellence Series 2020 Recharge and Revitalize, no other than the distinguished speakers we have today. We really aim for the jugular, so to speak. Truth be told, we have some lofty goals for our program. Among these, to provide our tourism industry players and frontliners with accessible, democratized, and holistic learning opportunity that integrates global and local practice. But as travel and tourism continue to face the most significant global threat of COVID-19, we could not help but wonder how we as an industry can face and can move on from such critical disruption, one that is most devastating yet. Secretary Berna herself said it quite tellingly, and I quote, "We are entering a new world, one that demands a different approach to business as usual if we hope to survive our tourism industry in a safe and sustainable manner." I could not agree more with the tourism chief, ladies and gentlemen, while reminding myself of the aphorism, "If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got." Indeed, this is what we have in mind in conceptualizing the Leadership Excellence Series 2020, to give our public something out of the box. It brings me back to my belief that original work is never created in safe middle ground. It always cuts edges. Booker Prize novelist Salman Rushdie says it best: "Originality is dangerous. Questions, overturns assumptions, and settles moral codes, disrespects sacred cows, and other such entities. It can be shocking or ugly, or to use the catch-all term so beloved of the tabloid press, controversial." As Rushdie tells us, we must not be afraid to rock the boat. Indeed, the future belongs not only to those who are willing to embrace change, and it is for those who are prepared to step out of their comfort zones and challenge the way we do things today. That is to say, we cannot continue to do the same things over and over just by simply rehashing here and there. Certainly not in this time of pandemic. Amidst the heightened uncertainty around us, we in the Department of the National Capital Region saw that this is a unique opportunity to articulate big ideas and tap into the country's promising knowledge worker economy, as epitomized by our distinguished speakers themselves. It is, I think, about time we strengthen this 21st century paradigm shift that was first espoused by visionary Peter Drucker, and that gives great import to knowledge as more crucial economic resource over land, labor, and financial assets. It has always been our belief that knowledge is power and information is the key. This maiden edition of Leadership Excellence Series 2020, Recharge and Revitalize, espouses the development of a knowledge worker economy by zeroing in on high impact, disruptive, and novel topics, beginning with our powerhouse speakers today. We are privileged to have listened and learned from the best-selling author, Mr. Josiah Go, latest study on 10 value chain factors affecting recovery in the tourism industry. Even before this new book, discussing creative strategies to market to the new tourists, came out. If there's one thing I can take away from his discourse, it is his fervent call to travel local and start local, something we can really make of great use this time as we jumpstart our economy. I must also take note of what Mr. Josiah said in his crisis is merely temporary, and there is always opportunity in crisis. Not to be outdone is Mr. Francis Kong, an award-winning motivational speaker and authority in leadership development and successful entrepreneurship in the Philippines, who shared with us strategic leadership management and gave us a glimpse to his rich first-hand life experiences that can certainly motivate, recharge, and revitalize the morale of the tourism workforce. Take it from Mr. Kong, who said, leadership is key. It is also very important to listen and leave a communication line open in an organization. Let us take heart from what Mr. Francis Kong said, that COVID-19 is not a dead end, but a detour. He also reinforces what Mr. Josiah said, that this crisis is merely temporary. Hold on to the faith. It is incumbent upon our leaders to have compassion for their employees. Ask them how they're coping. Continue to invest in your people. It is my hope that after listening to Mr. Kong, we have now lead the change that our society so deserves. Of course, this event would not have been possible without our equally high caliber moderator, Mr. Final Pitch himself, John Aguilar, who, by the way, is the brother of my good friend, who I just learned recently. So thank you, Sir John, for being with us today and for saying yes to this passion. And thank you on behalf of the Department of Tourism, our partners who made this remarkable event possible. The Office of the Secretary, thank you so much, Sec Berna and Hey Ace, thank you so much. The Office of Industry Manpower Development, Director Ryan, thank you so much for the support under the auspices of the TRCRG sector, headed by, of course, my boss, also USEC Arturo Boncato Jr., sir. The Presidential Communications Office, thank you to Sec Martin, who made sure that these powerhouse speakers are brought to every corners of this country, across the country. So many media organizations, government media organizations are covering. CNN Philippines, thank you for airing the plugs. To Positive Exposure Productions, thank you so much, guys, thank you. And of course, to Pioneer Professional Academy of Asia, thank you very much. And to the staff of NCR, thank you so much. We have a lot of crisis. Even as today, as we speak, we have a lot. This COVID-19 is affecting our very own NCR family. But we are here all together stronger. We wanted to do better because in this time of crisis, we want to serve the country with utmost sincerity and integrity. My warmest thanks to you and appreciation for making our vision a reality. Interestingly, today's important occasion coincides with my first year in the Department of Tourism. So thank you, Secretary Berna and President, for having me here at the department. I hope you will join us again in our next Leadership Excellence Series 2020. We promise to give you another exciting and top-notch online learning program. So all our Zoom participants, and I believe we have capped the 1,000. So others are now viewing from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much for tuning in and learning with us today. It is our hope that our speakers have recharged. Mike. Oh. Sorry for that technical glitch. Just like in life, there will always be technical glitches along the way. And what's important is you're able to face them head on and forward and move forward. Because it is our hope, and I go back, that after listening to our speakers, hopefully, we have been recharged and revitalized to move and to make a long-lasting impact in our society. Remember, creativity is vital. But at the end of the day, it is the impact that truly counts. Hence, our work would only matter if we have effected real change. We all know that we used to be told to aim for harmony like Confucius. But fast forward to today, the word disruption has become a buzzword everywhere. And we all know that it is the complete opposite of harmony. Yet people like us seems to find this an exciting business opportunity. And today, in fact, in an age of disruption, when Angkas, Shopee, and Lalamove have been disrupting industries to serve the greater public, and that is how we want to see the Philippine tourism in the next few years, under the leadership of Secretary Berna Romulo. We start today, and hopefully at the end of the Leadership Excellence Series 2020, we have come with our own big ideas and create disruption and innovations. These challenging times in tourism require us nothing short to be imaginative, bold, and brave in pursuing the next direction for our country's tourism. We all know that tourism is the hardest hit by the COVID-19 of all economic sectors. But with tourism's characteristic cross-cutting economic nature and deep social footprint, it is a unique position to help our economy return to growth and stability. Time and again, Philippine tourism has consistently proven its resilience, its ability not only to bounce back as a sector, but to lead the country's economic and social recovery. Our recovery work may seem an uphill battle. However, we should start somewhere if we ought to go somewhere. We have to work hand in hand from keeping our tourism on the path of progress. We have come a long way indeed, but we have a long way to go. And as we envision an NCR where no city is left behind, it is our hope that our country's tourism would one day bring us closer to our Filipino ultimate goal of a Filipino nation where everybody gets better chances in life, equal opportunities to write our own stories, and create better lives for themselves and their families. We in the department are confident that through collaborations like this that highlights the country's knowledge worker economy, we are confident that we can overcome the COVID-19 as we have the others. Indeed, the Filipino is a core strength of our country's tourism. And it's through the same vision that we will rise to the challenge as one. Mabuhay, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Thank you, Regional Director R.R. Makiling, for those very powerful remarks. Personally, for me, I'd like to share that I was a bit hesitant to come here to this event because, well, it is, as you can see, a live event. But I also wanted to see what has been, I guess, the baby steps that have been taken by the hotel sector, by the live events sector, and people who have slowly but surely made those baby steps towards nation rebuilding. And truly, it has been a remarkable 2 hours of high caliber and inspiring discussions from our audience, from our distinguished resource persons, Mr. Josiah Go and Mr. Francis Kong. Please don't forget to finish your feedback form to qualify for a DOT certificate. And join us again in September for another exciting edition of Leadership Excellence Series 2020. And get ready to be recharged and revitalized. This has been John Aguilar saying goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.
Just woke up from the time of my life. It started with a major throwback. Then I got to meet the big shots. I found a sweet spot between cultures and hung out with the artsy crowd. I even picked up a few things along the way. After that, things kicked into overdrive. It started with a whirlwind through the streets. An unforgettable eats. A celebration of flavor in every bite. And an epic new party at every turn. The best thing about it here, the good times are never over.
Lights, city sights, shopping malls, little stalls, flip-flops, rock and roll, street smart, fine art, new and old, bronze, gold, warm, charm, hot and cold. Quick bites, foodie finds, nice smiles, wild style, cheap thrills, sky high, knick-knacks, welcome back. Every corner, fun, fun, fun. Manila, welcome back.
Philippines.